quite simply, the Soviet Union wasn't socialist, so comparing the two is completely just asinine. So you can also argue that the Soviet Union wasn't actually communist either, but that's a different argument for a different day. So a lot of people say then, what is socialism? Well, socialism, defined by Webster, is a form of society in which government owns or controls major industries. And Marxist theory defines socialism as a transitional stage between capitalism and communism. Well, the one I'm going to be talking about, democratic socialism, which is actually seen in the media most often these days, is neither. So this guy, Bernie Sanders, is a democratic socialist. So what is democratic socialism then? They strive to decrease the influence of money in politics. And these days we have a lot of politicians who are using political action groups who are driven by major corporations to basically fulfill their political desires and use presidents and candidates as proxies for their own goals. They aim to empower ordinary people in workplaces and the economy, so we no longer have extremely high, powerful CEOs controlling everyone who's employed by them. It aims to restructure gender and cultural relationships to be more equitable. So basically aims to end sexism and racism in our society these days. And just generally a more free, democratic, and humane society. This is on the Democratic Socialists of America website. They also aim to reject international economic order sustained by private profit and alienated labor, race discrimination, gender discrimination, and environmental destruction. So basically, quite simply, they don't want people destroying the environment for their own profitable and capitalistic means. So why is this important? Because essentially capitalism is extremely limited, and the time to act is now. The middle class is shrinking. In the past 10 to 30 years, capital has moved away from labor and towards corporations and investors. So essentially, all the money is focused in kind of just shuffling money back and forth and increasing it based on percentages. So this is like where the stock market lies and isn't actually based in real, tangible labor or goods to share. Capitalism cannot thrive in a system where labor has a declining interest. So eventually we're going to get to a point where no one's going to be producing anything, and we're all going to be consuming everything. So we're going to quickly run out of resources, and the entire world's basically going to crash. The system cannot grow when consumption is not being supported, like I said. Without labor, we have no goods, and without goods, we have no society. So, everyone suffers because of capitalism, essentially. President Obama identified it as a dangerous and growing, identified, quote, a dangerous and growing inequality and a lack of upward mobility that has jeopardized middle-class America's basic bargain, that if you work hard, you have a chance to get ahead. So many people have this idea that, well, my grandfather grew up in America and, he started out on like a farm and, built his way up and now owns an extremely large and successful company, has tons of wealth. Well, these days it's a little bit harder, and if you're, born into a state of poverty or disadvantage, and you're basically screwed, and you can't progress as well as people in the past would have been able to. So, hard work equals success no longer applies, and as such, disadvantaged people have little chance of success in life. Many agree, 66% or more, agree that the wealthy are catered to far more than any other socioeconomic class, especially in legislation. This is basically saying that people who control money control the government almost absolutely, and the people who don't are disadvantaged and can't actually get their voice out there and make themselves heard. And, this is great for the wealthy, less than 1%, but extremely detrimental for the rest of society. So what is the solution? If you care about the well-being of our great nation, you need to seek further knowledge and basically understand it more than what people have used it for, communist or anti-communist propaganda, and basically saying that, well, capitalism is great because, those Russians were horrible. It's a kind of, bigoted and just, ignorant view of the world. So, you need to, look into it and actually learn for yourself. So, basically, a few questions. Do you want to be disadvantaged in your life? Whether that be because of the class you were born into, i.e., born into poverty, the color of your skin, or your gender, or any other reason for that matter. If that's no, then socialism might be the answer. And socialism, though great and full of potential, is nothing without support. So unless you're content with lifelong disadvantages, join me and cast aside your previous assumptions about socialism, because it's not as scary as you think. Thank you. Are there any questions?
How do you think this idea that has, do you think that the democratic socialists would be better off renaming their view? Because I think the word socialism has almost reached a point where...
I think it could definitely help, yes.
Because I think we've reached a point where people hear socialism and they just turn it off.
Yeah.
They're done.
And the people use socialism as, like, you know, a slur against people who are just trying to get people to share.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Obama's a socialist, and it's like, well, just trying to make it so people aren't suffering.
So, I would like to understand